we are all talking about the reactions what we make for uncertainties, and there are two types of uncertainty. One we call it as predictable uncertainty, another is unpredictable uncertainty. And this unpredictable uncertainty is supposed to be infrequent. It has to occur infrequently, but these days it is a little more frequent, and market reacts for it. And corporates react for this uncertainty. Of course, yes, all that what you explained, we react to the market, and strategies are no more a word, and we strategize only for a few months. It's all fine. But we are, as a B school, we are at a receiving end. I'll tell you why. A company comes for recruitment, and I take care of recruitment for placement for company. For the MBA students. And this company makes a presentation. Look, this is your career path for the firm, and you will grow like this, and we are going to train you for a year and all that. And they hire them. And taking back to the company, when they see market uncertainty, they get laid off in 6 months' time. And this guy calls me, says, "Sir, I lost my job. What should I do?" Right? And it looks like many corporates, they don't have a strategy in terms of asset built up, right? Human resource is an asset. And they have built up the assets without knowing for what they are going to use it. Yes, and when they don't find an alternate for that asset, they dump the asset, right? And it creates a lot of catastrophe for them. And they say that, look, this same company, when they came for hiring, they checked our loyalty 100 times. Will this guy stick on? Will this guy work for me? What is his long-term plan? And is he having a plan with us? They did all this. But at the end of the day, when they see some changes in the market, we have been asked to go. And now we are in the search of another job. And this is what we call it as market reaction, and the cost what is paid by resources around the market reaction. Is it that we don't create an entity which could better utilize the asset created, or how do we tackle this? I mean, this is something what we keep on asking. To be honest, in the last 1 or 2 years, there were a lot of our students who worked for tech firms, consulting firms for last 2 years, 3 years, they have lost the job. And one fine morning, they say that...
So what's your question, sir? I mean,
the question is it not that this is less prepared by the firm, and how do you handle this from our side, from our perspective? I mean, how do the students react to this? What they should do for this?
I'll tell you, very good question. I mean, and it's a reality.
Correct.
If not in 6 months, no, in 3.5 years, you'll face the same situation. The different stories, each one of us have gone through some flavor of it somewhere. We have fought our way through and made it where we are.
Now it is much more, I suppose.
That's correct. And for the kids, when they're going through something like this, there is something called as a primary skill, and there's something called as mandatory to secondary skills that one needs to work on. We have over the years honed those skills so that we can have the exposure and a wider base. A kid at this age with so many things acceptable to him and available to him, if he is in a position to have at least one secondary skill that is bankable and that is payable, that the issue is the kids do it, but the institute that are training them have a curriculum which is decided few years prior to this. If the market changes today, why go far? We were building up asset in Poland. My Polish guys were very expensive. Because of the war, my Ukrainian guys were fantastic. I could offer them very, very cheap. Now I gave my Indian youngsters a chance to go down to Poland and start working with them. They chose not to. They wanted to stay in India because of the war. However it is, it's a personal decision that they did. But if you look at the European culture or the American culture, there is always a primary and a secondary skill that they bank on. That is something which we as institutes or Indian institutes, if you're malleable enough to adapt those, probably it will be very helpful for you.
No, but no company who comes for hiring tells the student that you might be laid off in 6 months.
Nobody.
I'm saying that
Nobody would
I mean,
it's a very, very sensitive topic. I'll tell you what today, why industry and academia need to work on together. Where this industry curriculum is striving for, they have created minus 0 days, day 1, day 2, day 3, right? So this is very close to, I know I have working with so many institutes for perspective that what you are preparing your students for. Are you preparing the students for that later? Where you pride your self-esteem that look, my day 0, my all placed. So the question arises, what you bring onto the table and disproportionate value for the cost that you are hiring at. So this is where the real challenge is. My pet topic, employable versus deployability. Anybody corporate who thinks that this talent is deployable, he or she will never be laid off.
Yeah. These are young kids who are getting into a B school with a lot of passion and dream. And they come in, I'm sure we can attribute that as to they're looking forward that day 0 letter or whatever it is. But there is an aspiration which they are entering in. I'm not sure whether corporates are equally responsible to think what are they doing with their career. So every company has got a management trainee program, there's a GET program, so on and so forth. But it is like the HR function wants to say, hey, this year there's an annual program, go and hire 30 people. What do we do with them? We'll figure it out. And then put them into jobs. And then if there is a pain, these are the easiest targets for you to let go of. But instead, if organizations take a step back and say, do I have a career plan for this? Do I ever say that there are 6 roles in sales, 5 roles in marketing are earmarked for management trainees? Come what may, they are my future. I'm not going to touch them. And they will be allowed to fail in the role. And even if an organization goes through a tough time, we'll back them and we'll nurture them to go to the next level. Sometimes there are difficult decisions that corporates need to take, but we always tend to go to the easiest one and see what is the one that we need to look at. So programs when we do annually, even though there is an annual MT program or a GET or a recruitment program, it might be very good if we can think through by saying it's not that it's a mandatory tick in the box for me to go and recruit 5 people in sales, 3 people in marketing, 2 people in finance, so on and so forth. But I'm looking at people who can have meaningful impact to the organization and they will have a career in the organization. We talked about strategy. We said we need to be nimble. Strategies are no more relevant for 5 years. But here we are recruiting for someone who is there, supposed to be there for 20 years. And we expect the person to turn out to be the CEO of the organization. So there is a starting point where the recruitment starts by saying you expect longevity in the organization and candidate. But when we don't prepare for it and plan for it, then we take short-term decisions.
I can understand the pain. Day 0, day 1, day 1. I mean, I have gone through this. I had to do day 0 minus 1 by opening a COE in a company.
I am not at day 0 and day 1. This is a larger value question in respect to the corporate. So keep for the time being, keep it aside.
Yeah.
And this is also linked to the talent strategy. And this is where you are coming across. You talked about supply chain. So there is a supply chain strategy for the inventory and there's a talent supply chain. Right? So talent supply chain is very important, that how the talent catchment will change without taking cognizance of the fact that the market will change, it has impact on the talent. So if your campus program is actually a backward integration program, it is not a year-on-year annual program. And this is where is the value question, ethics question for the organization, which thinks that my manpower solution is one of the aspect is campus. And this is where the skilling comes into play. That's why many organizations are saying that the program, the campus program is 6 months for the skilling or the 1 year skilling or the backward integration. But this is where the integration and the supply chain aspect comes to place, that where is the cost? Because they have not taken into account, and this is where the larger picks for the campus. Since I am from HR fraternity, I'm very passionate about it, that the cost of acquisition from the campus and the return is not there. So we all have to collectively think across that why people are focusing on tier 2, 3 tier 3 cities, other skill sets, because value and the skill that you are talking about.
No, that's a fair point.
Correct. So until and unless, that's what I'm saying, if your compensation that you are drawing is disproportionate to the skill deployable, and the institute and the corporate has to work it out, that if professor is taking pride that my average salary for HR is 42 lakhs, you also have to see to it on the backward that last 5 years, whoever is the top-notch salary, how their careers has grown. We have also seen this.
Why is that when it comes to the choice of letting go, these are the people who are first let go? I think the corporates really know what...
Revenue is a downstream impact.
Yes.
Always understand. And more the organization look it through the revenue lens, that when I look at the talent, it is a cost.
Correct.
And this is I'm saying this is where the introspection they people want. And I think your campuses need to see to it that which corporate has laid off, what stand you are taking. The same corporate will come with the same compensation, same day zero, they will again allow. Please, so you also take it. Important the value proposition. What people don't like, what is corporate responsibility, in my value proposition, in say the value that I come from a corporate, my compensation comes here, my value proposition comes here, that wealth creation comes from the career. Right? And I think until and unless you keep on reinforcing this day in and day out, that my institute stands for this, okay, this will never be solved. Once you put a compensation here, rest below. Okay. It will never be solved.
Like looking almost every startup which would be addressing the same point of the hiring part, which typically we fund and we expect them to hire the best talent to grow.
Series 2 nahi aaya, therefore we wanted to lay off.
Yeah. And the next thing, of course, comes as a market comes strategy that you make a strategy so that you grow.
Exactly.
Right? So that you achieve your projections. That's the reason how the valuation goes up and VCs like us make money out of that. Right? That's a hope. Oh. So to sum up in totality, I feel there is no straightforward way to pick up one thing and then you think that that's going to be relevant. The relevance, as we all know, is changing dramatically, because of innovation, technology, and geopolitical risk. So ultimately, if you're making a strategy, one needs to be very open that, listen, this is a path for me to achieve whatever X, Y, Z. But I am also prepared to understand that I might need to, divert, because there are things which are dynamic to change. Because of these things, as I said, like it can be a war tomorrow and then suddenly you might have a very different approach. And coming to HR part, see, in India, it is the only thing which I realized, because when I did my MBA, I was told that and I understood. We are the only country, probably in my understanding, where after a graduation, one is able to go for MBA classes or MBA colleges. Anywhere else in the world, the average age of any MBA student is about 28. And they at least have 2 years of experience. Which means that once you are having some kind of work X, you know what specialization are you pursuing towards, and then you are choosing that field, and then the relevant hiring is possible because you have the acquired skills.
From the industry, and after that they also are in a position to understand what the professors are teaching in the class. And
absolutely. So the point remains that what are you absorbing in the college? See, ultimately today, honestly, if I have to look at from my own personal, comments, it's more of a game of the ranking, that which ranked universities are you going after and what kind of job can you get in what kind of salary. Skills are completely, thrown out of the thing. You learn after you are out of this thing. Right now, your focus should be complete this, get a job and get lost. So that doesn't work. That doesn't work anywhere, right? So ultimately, you cannot grow or the ecosystem cannot grow because of this limiting factor itself that you're starting with. Right? So one has to be a little bit more, I would say, adaptive everywhere rather than blaming whether corporate is going wrong or college is going wrong.
So as an organizational behavior, I'm telling you, if we look back our career in the way we grew up, I think most of our by default, whether by design, very few of us have by design. This generation, if you look at it, as you talked about strategy, each student also need to know how I am sketching my career. So this sketching of career comes from when they study in the B schools. They should be very smart enough to sketch my career, that what I am chasing. For example, you talk about this thing. I know so many, since I come from a CA, PwC from that perspective, many good CAs, they choose to have a good career, but they think, no, I will go for due diligence. But due diligence, they know they have seen the career ahead of the due diligence, but the starting is less. But they know if I churn up, what is ahead of me is very good. And that's why the corporate finance due diligence they choose, and they leave indirect tax, direct tax or audit profession, which they choose at the entry level higher. So this sketching of career is very important. And that stage, and this is where probably both of our role comes into play, that please sketch your career well. And I think give them what do you love at. So consulting, like there's no consulting school until unless you come and learn consulting. So when people choose compensation, they choose that, okay, ESOP, retention, probably it makes to be appealing. They don't test what I'm good at. So I think these 2 years post they do engineering experience and come back to big B schools, I think this understanding of that what I'm chasing for is right or wrong. And this understanding is very clear for the growth for any economy, any society.